First, yeah, let's start with that weather impact alert. Not one, not two, but four of them over the next couple of days.
4 days.
What can we expect here?
Yeah, heat and humidity. Those are going to be the two main impacts that we're talking about when we're looking at this 13 weather impact alert. We've expanded that. So originally we were looking especially at Sunday and Monday. Now we are Saturday all the way through Tuesday. Now, the impact here is from prolonged extreme heat, temperatures that are reaching into the 90s, but because of high humidity, it's going to feel like we are closer to 100 degrees, and for many areas, it's actually going to be a little bit hotter than that even. We could be seeing some heat index values reaching into the lower 100s. What you'll need to do is make sure that you are really taking care of yourself during this time, drinking plenty of water, being prepared to be hydrated, limiting outdoor activities, especially strenuous ones. If you work outdoors, you want to make sure that you have a cool place to get to so that you can cool off afterwards. If you don't have an AC unit, if you don't have air conditioning, I would also say to maybe try to find somewhere that you can go just to help yourself cool off a little bit. It is going to be a hot couple of days ahead of us. Very important to take care of yourself during this time. As far as where our temperatures are right now, starting out close to 70 degrees all across West Michigan, 70 here in Grand Rapids right now, 72 in Kalamazoo. Now, here's what we're seeing for dew points. Things look a little bit nicer than yesterday, still lower 60s, so still technically elevated dew points. We would usually look at some of these 60s and call this humid, but we have been very humid recently and we're going to be very humid again. So this is actually just a little bit of relief for us. Throughout the rest of the day, we will continue to see that humidity just ramping up, and that's ahead of dew points reaching back close to 70 degrees tomorrow. Right now, we have this front that's stalled out over the Midwest, bringing us some showers, even the chance for a couple of thunder showers out there. We've seen the first couple of those making their way in closer to US 10, so especially further north. Couple of showers that are starting up. We do have the possibility for a few of those to produce a little bit of thunder and lightning still today, with only a 1 out of 5 severe risk. I would say that a couple of stronger cells that produce gusty winds is a possibility, but for the most part, you should be staying sub-severe pretty much entirely. Temperatures today reaching into the low to mid 80s, seeing the chance for a couple more showers yet in the forecast. So today, isolated thunderstorms, still thunder showers more than anything else, 83 degrees. Next couple of days, though, this is where we're really going to ramp up. Saturday, we do have the chance for a few thunderstorms in the morning, which we'll talk about in just a little bit, but that heat, that's what's going to be getting us. The 90s on the way, feeling like the triple digits once again. I'll have a closer look at this heat wave and also our storm chances coming up in a little bit.
All right, and you mentioned the heat that we're going to endure Saturday, Sunday, Monday.
Yeah.
I mean, much of next week, really. And even when we don't have a red bar on those days, be careful because it's going to be kind of dangerous heat, a little bit hotter than what we've been used to over the last couple of months.
Absolutely.
And when we're talking about this extreme heat, it can cause heat-related illnesses. You mentioned that as being a possible side effect of that. We actually spoke with a doctor from Corewell Health to talk about what you need to keep an eye on if you are going to be outside during these very warm weather days. Listen.
A lot of folks are excited to get out there and enjoy the summer weather, but whenever it's warm out, we're going to start seeing an increase in the heat-related illnesses, and we're going to see people who are not able to cool themselves effectively, especially when it's hot and humid and that heat index goes up. So we're seeing people who are not staying hydrated well, and they're putting themselves at risk of heat exhaustion, of heat stroke, and also doing things that are fun in the sun that are putting them at higher risk of that happening.
I mean, what are some of the concerns with that? How serious is, if you're heading out to, like Pride Festival this weekend or going to the beach, why is this so important to be keeping an eye on?
So anytime that you are out and you are unprotected in the sun and you don't have any protection from the shade, or you are out and there's not a good way to cool yourself effectively with breeze, or you are out in a big group of people where the air is not moving effectively, that's when you're at risk of being susceptible to heat illness. Also, sometimes people will not be drinking water, they might be having coffee, they might be having some White Claws, and that is going to make them more dehydrated faster. When people are in the sun, they're also at risk of getting sunburn, and the sunburn will make them lose water more quickly through their skin as well. So there's just a lot of things that can come together and put you at higher risk of heat-related illnesses.
And sunburn in itself is something to be concerned about, kind of talk about how serious that can get.
Yeah, definitely. So people can get the sunburns from being out for just a short amount of time, especially when the UV index gets high. And it's important to put on an effective sunscreen and to continue reapplying throughout the day. And it's not just the immediate sunburn now, but the damage that happens down the road. So making sure that you have a good waterproof sunscreen, because you're going to be sweating it off when you're moving, especially when it's hot out or when you're in the water.
I always fall victim to the forgetting to reapply too.
Mhm.
So, this is just something I was thinking about. This is kind of like the first big heat event of, our summer here. Is there anything that like I feel like I feel this worse than I would in August just because I'm not used to it. Is there like any acclimation, going from like the Michigan winter, spring to, this? I don't know if there's something to that, like physically in our bodies.
Yeah, so our bodies do get acclimated to heat when we're around it. People who live in warmer climates get used to it. So when we're in Michigan and we are in these really cold areas, and especially having a cool spring, this can be a real shock to the system. So even though it can be tempting to just go out and do a lot this weekend, it's important to realize that you're not used to it and to plan those times to cool off.
I know. I was just planning ahead for the weekend, thinking of what I was going to do. I was like, maybe I shouldn't try to jam so much in. I don't know
Yeah.
about that one. Um, I think that's part of it too, is just like, leading to that dehydration. People aren't used to having to kind of up intake that. Why is hydration such an important aspect of our bodies, and why is it important to be, keeping that up throughout the day?
Yeah, so you're losing fluids just through the process of keeping your body cool, both through sweating and also insensible losses. So when you're exhaling, when you're just existing in the heat, your body is losing fluid. And a lot of times, once you're dehydrated, you don't even realize how dehydrated you've gotten. So it's important to stay ahead of it and also realize that hydration isn't a cure-all for becoming overheated. You can still get heat exhaustion even when you're staying really hydrated. So making sure that you're looking for shade, making sure that you're looking for breeze or a fan, and also cool spots that you can go to take breaks periodically throughout the day.
How do you know if you might be getting to that point of heat exhaustion?
So people will start to feel tired, confused, dizzy. They might not be able to regulate their body temperature as well anymore. So some people might actually start to not feel warm, but actually still feel cool, or they might not be sweating as much anymore. So those can all be signs that you're going from being simply overheated to something more serious.
And then what is heat stroke? What's the difference there? I feel like sometimes I hear those words kind of tossed
Mhm.
around interchangeably.
Yeah, heat stroke is a more serious, more severe progression of heat exhaustion. And that is when your body's temperature goes even higher and you start to develop really serious neurologic conditions and neurologic symptoms. This is when body organs will actually start to shut down, and people will sometimes start to have issues with their circulatory system, with their heart beating too fast, with their blood pressure becoming really erratic. So, those are medical emergencies and need to be dealt with immediately.
How fast can something like this, heat stroke, heat exhaustion set in if you're outside? Is there kind of, what are the parameters?
Mhm. So everybody's a little different, but the more vulnerable you are to heat depends on your age, your medical conditions, and also how you're doing that day. If you haven't been drinking enough fluid, if you just exercised a lot that morning and you started out from a dehydrated standpoint, you're going to be a lot more vulnerable. Plus, if you're in a day where it's really muggy and your body's unable to cool itself, or if you're in a really big group of people and you're drinking fluids that are likely to make you pee more, such as caffeine or alcohol, you're going to experience the symptoms a lot quicker. And the big difference between being in the sun in the heat and being in the shade is also something that can escalate it. So making sure that you're being in the shade whenever possible, not only to protect yourself from those sunburns, but that can be a big protection from heat exhaustion as well.
How you mentioned humidity. How does that play a factor into this?
So with the humidity, your body isn't as able to regulate temperature. It's not as able to have sweat evaporate because there's more humidity in the air. So you're more affected at lower temperatures when it's more humid. I mean, it feels uncomfortable, and that's because your body isn't as able to regulate those temperatures at the higher humidity levels.
It sounds like this weekend between the humidity, the first kind of the year, not acclimated to it. This is kind of a tough one for a lot of people out there.
Yeah,
Obviously, some people have to be outside. Any tips for people, if they are somebody who has to be maybe working outside in the heat or something like that, or just being outside in general for a long period of time?
yeah. So wearing cool clothing, wearing light colors, planning breaks as much as possible, staying hydrated, and also letting people around you know if you do have medical problems to get you help. Staying away from caffeine, staying away from alcohol if you're going to be outside and you're planning to have fun with people. Make sure that you know that you're at risk for more significant side effects this weekend with the heat.
That was kind of my list of questions. Anything else that, maybe you see or you hear your patients talk about, or anything else you wanted to bring up with this?
So a lot of times we'll see people who stay at home and are still really vulnerable to heat exhaustion, especially older folks or folks with more serious medical conditions. They might not have air conditioning, or they might have air conditioning, but they might not be able to afford to keep it running as cool as they need to. They might have overwhelming of their electric circuits. So looking in on your neighbors and being aware of where cooling centers are and making sure that you can help people get to those if need to, or try to know when to call for help for others too.